people of Iran are currently rising up against their oppressive theocratic state that has kept them under strict rule for over 40 years. This is why the people of Iran are so angry. And here's what's next. To get a better picture of Iran, we need to rewind a little bit. In March of 1979, Iran established an Islamic Republic after overthrowing the previous monarchy. This republic established a new constitution, which contained both theocratic and democratic elements. However, the democratic elements had a certain caveat. We'll come back to that later. The new constitution installed the position of supreme leader of Iran, the ultimate power and a religious and political head of state. The position is the absolute highest authority over all political matters, including military, media, education, and foreign policy. The current supreme leader of Iran is Ayatollah Khamenei, who has sat the position for over 30 years. After the new constitution was adopted, many laws were birthed restricting the people of Iran, particularly women. Some of these laws included women being banned from entering stadiums, riding bicycles or motorcycles, singing or dancing in public, or most importantly for this video, mandatory head coverings. In 1983, it became mandatory for all women above the age of puberty, regardless of religious affiliation, to wear a head covering and loose clothing while in public. There are no clear guidelines as to what age or what clothing is deemed appropriate or not, which leaves enforcers with the freedom of interpretation. Now, how are these laws enforced? Iran also formed a religious police force and named them the Guidance Patrol, but they're more widely known as the Morality Police. This force reports directly to the Supreme Leader of Iran, and their sole objective is to focus on Iranian crimes, including alcohol consumption, non-segregation of men and women in public, playing music, and violations of dress code. Fast forward back to 2010, where the GDP of Iran was projected to double by 2015, but the real GDP growth was just 2.2% per year, which was vastly insufficient to halt the growing unemployment rate. Iranian industrialists blamed the lack of growth on the corrupt interests of the government, including the supreme leader's financial empire built on property seizures, which amounted to $95 billion. Iranian oil earnings of up to $150 billion simply disappeared. Previous heads of the legislative and judiciary branches of the Iranian government also were found to have ties to a documented financial corruption case. The result of this corruption? About 40 million Iranians live under the relative poverty line. Some people of Iran believe the supreme leader gives Iranian wealth to other countries for personal favor and keeps the citizens poor and easy to control. Many people believe that all heads of the Iranian regime are corrupt. But why don't they vote them out? This brings us back to the theocratic and democratic elements of the Constitution that I mentioned earlier. Under the Supreme Leader is a group called the Guardian Council. This council consists of 12 men who are handpicked by the Supreme Leader, which supervises elections and approves or disqualifies candidates seeking to run in any election, be it local, parliamentary, or presidential. This provides the illusion of democracy by allowing the Iranian public to vote between a selection of regime puppets. People have been protesting against the oppressive methods of rule and enforcement by the Iranian government for decades. In 2019, 3 women were aboard the Tehran metro, which is segregated by genders. The women were handing out flowers and were not wearing their hijabs. Video of the incident leaked, and the morality police promptly arrested the women, and they were all sentenced to between 16 and 23 years in prison for propaganda against the state and moral corruption. An Iranian Christian man had his home raided during a Christmas celebration with his family. He was held in solitary confinement for 65 days and was later sentenced to 10 years in prison for acting against the state by establishing and managing house churches. In 2018, a female human rights lawyer was sentenced to 33 years in prison, along with 148 lashes, for advocating for women's rights. The Iranian government also banned religious minorities from working within childcare facilities with Muslim children, and at least 95 journalists are currently in prison for reporting on the human rights violations of the regime, all charged with anti-state crimes. In 2022, the largest demonstrations since 1979 were sparked by the death of 22-year-old Mahsa Amini. The morality police arrested Amini for improper dress. She was wearing her hijab incorrectly. Some people believe that the police brutally beat her as they transported her to the police station. Once at the police station, Amini slipped into a coma. 3 days later, she died in the hospital. The outrage from the Iranian people following this event could not be suppressed. Nationwide, people began protesting against the tyrannical regime, chanting "Death to the dictator! Death to Khamenei!" The government's attempts to suppress these protests failed, with Iran Human Rights reporting that at least 448 people were killed during the demonstrations after being fired upon with shotguns. The current majority population of Iran is younger than the Islamic regime itself. They've never known life outside of their current society. With modern technology and social media, this younger generation is able to witness what life outside of a strict societal rule looks like. This generation of Iranians is unwilling to be oppressed any longer. We are potentially witnessing an Iranian revolution.